going to make a pork tenderloin with a bourbon glaze over top, some roasted Brussels sprouts, and then some potato cakes with some leftover mashed potatoes that we've had, because leftovers are important too. Okay, so I'm going to start with the sauce for the pork first. I have a peeled shallot here. Oh. And then 2 cloves of garlic. And then I'm going to cut up the shallot and mince the cloves of garlic into a pot. And then I'm going to saute them with olive oil in order to get them nice and clear and translucent before we add all the other liquids. So now that we have everything cut, we're going to put it into that pot, just like I said. Here's our saucepan. So now, I'm going to take a bit of olive oil, about a tablespoon, cover that, and then we're going to take it over, and we're going to sizzle it off. Now that the heat's on, we'll come back in a little and check on them. We're looking for the shallots in particular to be translucent, and you don't want the garlic to burn. You just want it to be fragrant. So if you look really close, our shallots are now pretty much clear. There's a little bit of purplish tint left, but that's okay. You just don't want them to look as purple as they did when you first had it whole. Now that we have our shallots and our garlic cooked off, we're going to add the rest of the components of our sauce, and then it's going to go back on medium heat until all of the liquid that we put into it reduces to about half. So, we're going to take a cup of brown sugar. Get that in there. We're going to take about a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar. That in there. 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar. 1/4 cup of red wine. This is the particular one that we're using, but you could really use any red wine that you desire. Tablespoon of soy sauce. I'll just throw in some pepper. And mix. So we're going to put this back on medium heat until it reduces by half. Now on to Brussels sprouts. A lot of people really dislike Brussels sprouts, but I particularly do not. So I'm going to cut the ends off, set them aside, and then flip it over and cut down the middle. Now, you can cut however you prefer. Some people set the flat side down, which is probably smarter, but I do what I do. Now that all the Brussels sprouts are chopped up, I like to keep some of the extra leaves because they get nice and crispy in the oven. I'm going to take my olive oil. I'm going to drizzle it all over them, up and down the pan. Then this is where it gets messy. I'm going to take my hands. I'm going to mix them around and make sure that they're all nice and evenly coated with some good olive oil. Put some pepper on, and then finish them off with a generous layer of salt. We use kosher salt in this house. You could really use any salt. Okay, and then these are going to go into the oven at 400 degrees for about 25 minutes or until they're nice and brown. Now we're going to get a nice brown on our pork tenderloin. I have the cast iron skillet heating up with some olive oil. You want your meat as soon as it touches it in order to sizzle. If it doesn't sizzle, then it's not ready. This is a funny angle of pork. As you can see, we got a nice brown coating on it. So now it's going to go into the oven at 400. Okay, now onto the leftover part, the potato cakes. So here's some old mashed potatoes. I have 2 different tubs of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine them both, put an egg in, and then coat with some flour, and then we're gonna fry them up. And they'll be like brand new. So now we have our beautiful little patties made. So what I'm doing is I'm making a little olive oil and butter bath that we're going to fry them up in. So you want this also to get pretty decently hot. Let's fry them. Okay. So I'm going to pick up one little patty and set it in there really nice. Let's take a look at our oven stuff. Finally, here's our pork, all nice and cut up, and our nice little reduction that we have. So now I'm going to just take it and pour it gently over the pork. And just let that sit. Look at the color. Ah. And our Brussels sprouts and potato cakes. So I'm definitely not sure how I like the angle of all the cooking, but it's my first video and I'm so excited. So let me know if you have any suggestions for anything better as of now. But yeah.